Hello, this talk is entitled 55 Funny Facts About Level Design and is a part of the CI7870 Game Design module at Kington University, London. I am Jarek Frankik and I owe you an explanation why I have chosen for such a heavily important topic, such a clickbait title. So, instead of introduction, have this simple diagram. Game design equals system design plus game writing plus content design. System design is creation of game rules and fundamental mechanics, ensuring that all this works well together, resulting in playable, well-balanced game experience. You might have noticed that in this module it is primarily my domain, and this explains why it's shown in this diagram as the number one ingredient. Number two ingredient is game writing, story, narrative, dialogue, text, this essential thread which provides the meat to the game and justifies its existence. And this is of course the domain of my co-lecturer, Hope Kington. And you very well know that games can be, roughly speaking, story-led or mechanics-led. So ranking between these two components maybe is not disputable, but it's, well, interchangeable. Okay, so what's content design? Content design is the design of the assets that make the game attractive. Graphical designs, animations, mini-games, maps, characters, and I mean here the visual representation of characters, not their backstory, which belongs to the domain of game writing. And the level design belongs here. It must be subordinate to the game rules, it must be subordinate to game mechanics, balance and internal economy, and in the same time it has to support the narrative, providing this middleware, the internal substance underpinning the whole structure. Something like filling in a mince pie. Very important and very tasty, but, well, just a filling. And you might have noticed that this module concentrates on the first two components. Level design is a huge topic which could easily be basis for a separate module, but it was our decision to leave it maybe not beyond the scope of the game design module, but after all we are talking about it right now, but at least at its remote boundary. And this is why I didn't like a smart sounding title. As we won't explore the topic in its depth, we will just skim the surface. So let's move on to four meanings of the word level. A level can be an environment or location separate from other locations and well defining a game level, but it can also be just a breaking up of a larger physical space with a boundary which may be more or less defined somehow. Okay, and it can also be a unit of progression, for example in puzzle games like Angry Birds, with no particular relation to any kind of physical space. And last but not least, in RPG games like this one, it will be based on player rank, based on score, skills, experience, rather than anything else. So you could say game designers have extremely limited vocabulary, or do they? Here are 7 other words for the level: round, wave, stage, act, chapter, mode. Okay, let's go to something a little bit more serious. 4 steps of story-driven level design. Thinking about level design, you should always start from the game world, the general principles, general assumptions, the target group, the historical period, the very generally speaking, the location, story premises, this kind of stuff. Then you would subdivide this world into a number of levels. Each level should be well defined, themed, and separate. Once you choose a theme for the level, mixing up between or across the boundaries of these levels usually is not a very best idea of game design. So those levels would be separate things. Then within the level you have a sequence, or maybe not necessarily a sequence, rather a series, a number of experiences, like events, encounters, okay? And each experience has to be finally analyzed and written in pretty much detail, moment-to-moment gameplay, with regard to big moments and small moments, important things, less important things. Do you remember the chainsaw diagram of level difficulty? That's all about. And as was observed by Scott Rogers, the guy behind the book Level Up, my favorite game design book, and also a co-reading in your module, the level design is based on the same principle which Walt Disney used to design Disneyland. There are some general principles to the entire Disneyland world: target group, regulations, or even a train that encompasses the entire terrain. And then we have all these lands: Adventureland, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, Frontierland, Mickey's Toontown, Star Wars, Fantasyland. Oh, that one already was listed. Okay, each of them has its own theme, unique and quite consistent, without too much mixing across the boundaries of the levels, of the lands, sorry, because these lands are actually game levels, internally diverse, but still quite distinct and consistent. And within these game levels we have experiences which in a theme park are called attractions. Okay, always supporting the theme and the story of the level. And at the bottom of the entire hierarchy, each experience or attraction has been meticulously planned step by step, with attention to the smallest detail. Let's have some fun of these levels. 10 clichés of game level themes: outer space, fire and ice, dungeon, cavern, tomb, factory or industrial environments, jungle, and haunted house or graveyard, pirate ship, town or island, gritty urban drama, space station, sewer. Even a cliché can be made compelling, and you should try to mix and match using Mexican pizza paradigm. Mexican pizza was a pizza-shaped snack made with Mexican food toppings and introduced by Taco Bell. It sounds disgusting, but actually many people found it really good. So combining two things that wouldn't normally go together can lead to something really good and, more importantly, quite original. Okay, 7 easy ways to create an atmosphere. Lighting, darkness, lightness. Okay, color palette. Please remember about the symbolic meaning behind colors. Bright colors, dark colors, warm colors, cold colors, weather and atmospheric effects. They influence us even in the real world, so in a game it's a very powerful element. Special visual effects, quite obviously, music as a creator of the atmosphere, of the mood, but also ambient audio, particularly to create tension, disturbing tension, but also special audio effects. The next two funny things about level design are the types of level maps, alley and island. The alley, which can be linear or parallel, is basically a route from point A to point B, so there is a clear entrance and exit, and a lot of activities in between, perhaps quite a complex space, but basically this is a clear flow in well-defined direction towards the exit. And in contrary to that, we have this islands configuration, also known as hub and spokes. So you have the central area from which you start your consecutive quests, and there are gateways to other areas of the map, not just one exit, but multiple gateways. 3x3 golden rules of map design. So we will discuss altogether 9 golden rules, but I will start from the first big rule: use environment to tell the story. That's incredibly important because, first of all, a game is very much different from other forms of narrative art, like film, books, and so on. Probably the worst design idea to present a story to the player is to display a text and request them to read it. Of course, if well used, like opening in Star Wars, it can be stylish, it can be good, but this is rather an exception than the rule. Normally, you shouldn't. People play the games to enjoy the game world, not to read the story. A cinematic sequence is much better idea, but it's it's expensive. It's a lot of resources, a lot of work. So the proposition here is to use your game environment to tell the story instead. What it means: first of all, make all game objects to support your game story, or provide a very clear theme and keep all the objects in this theme. So, for example, if your game is based in Wild West, make every game object just shouting Wild West, okay? And this will support your story. This will create your story. Illusional narrative, what it is? It's a technique borrowed from a film. Imagine that you watch a movie, and you have a scene in which you watch a guy waking up in the morning, panicked because it's too late, he overslept. And the very next scene shows him entering his office, or even better, a school classroom, and at this moment everyone is looking at him. Okay, you don't know because it wasn't shown in this movie what happened in between. You don't know if he had time to brush his teeth or have his breakfast, but you will guess, you will tell the story, you will reconstruct the story from the facts you know. You will know that he somehow made it to leave the house, took any kind of transportation, arrived to the school, entered the class, and you even know why they are all looking at him, because he came late. Okay, So you don't have to specifically tell every detail of the story. You can use illusional narrative just to show some facts, some stuff, without the need to properly show everything, create all necessary or unnecessary actually animations, and so on. And the third rule here is about training by doing. This is mostly about tutorial levels. Just forget about anything like a tutorial level. There shouldn't be tutorial levels. People play games because they want to have fun, okay? Not because they want to be trained, learn new skills, or what kind of skills. So instead of training, specifically training, just give action. Ask players to do something that makes sense to the game story, and do this in that way that at the same time they would learn the skills necessary to continue the gameplay. Alright, and if we have mentioned making a player do something, some activities, the second big golden rule is encourage players' movement. A stagnation in the game is absolutely wrong, absolutely weak design. You have to ensure that your player is doing something, some activity all the time. So first of all, you can provide something to build anticipation. You can give a level map. It doesn't have to be, detailed level map, but it just gives some idea what to expect in the game. It will just build this anticipation in the user. Poster is some kind of an early information what would happen next in the game. One game that I played long time ago, it was on an 8-bit computer, started with snapshots of future levels. Okay, so it just displayed 5 or maybe 10 snapshots showing what to expect in the future levels of the game. Was it a spoiler? No, it was building anticipation. Winnies, fingers, and rewards. What is a Winnie? Winnie is something like that. Okay, it's another photo from Disneyland, Los Angeles, and this is something clearly defined and well visible from wherever you are. It's like a pointer, like a waypoint, okay, showing you, oh, here is the central point, something interesting is right here. Disneyland actually has a number of Winnies like this, which pinpoint the central points, interesting points of interest, which are connected to various lands in Disneyland. Actually, the word Winnie, which is quite widely used now in game design as a big feature in the game that draws attention and gives a hint, oh, go there because there is something interesting. This word was created by nobody else but by Walt Disney, and when they created a movie with dogs, they used Frankfurters, sausages, to attract those dogs so that those dogs would follow the route the filmmakers intended these dogs to go. Okay, so they just show the Frankfurter, and the dog would follow this. And Winnie's was the Frankfurter's trademark, so this is how this term was created. So do the same thing with players in your game. Show them these Winnies so that they follow them. If you have a situation like this is a top view on the left hand side, top view of some segment of a game level. You know, if something looks long and boring, then it is. Make something interesting with this. Add fingers. Fingers are these short corridors which can be dead ends, all right, but they will create some kind of variety, diversity to the gameplay. They are just not boring. But of course, if you just create a number of fingers, like a distraction, players very soon would learn that, well, there is no point to go there because these are dead ends. So put some rewards there, okay? If there is something interesting for the player at the end of such a finger, they will explore, they will do this activity to explore, actively explore various aspects, various places in your level map. And the last rule here about encouraging players' movement is use the geometry, lighting, and what is a squint test? Squint test is a if you look at the picture and you squint your eyes, nearly closing them, okay, with your eyes nearly closed like this, what can you see? So that you barely can see anything, but one brightest or most distinctive feature of the image should actually show the way to go. Okay, so here this is this white space of the road which gives a clear hint, go this way, there will be something interesting there. And you actually can see a Winnie. This castle would be a Winnie here, so it's a clear hint where to go, what to do next. The game level design that doesn't provide the clues what to do, or that would be intentionally misleading, is most often a weak design, unless of course this misleading is well justified by the game story. So I can easily imagine a horror game or a criminal game that is intentionally misleading here in some way, but in most cases, unless you have a good reason, you should help your players to find the way and find the activities you provided. So provide all these winnies and other stuff. So we naturally arrived to the third big golden rule: be an active, not a lazy designer. What it means? First of all, activity-driven design. Activity-driven design means that you have to design your level from activity to activity, not from place to place. If you design place to place, you will probably walk between these places, all right? If you think about your gameplay in a level, and the description of the gameplay would be something like this: and after doing this activity, that's good for activity, the player has to get to another location in order to... That's something wrong, okay? Getting to another location means walking, and walking is generally not a gameplay, alright? So if your character is about to walk somewhere, replace this with some other activities. Make him or her climbing, okay, or collecting something, or jumping over something, okay? So make this more interesting, make something to happen. Walking is not a gameplay. Think about pacing, progression, plan, and once again plan, alright? You should know and understand exactly what time each activity takes. If something seems long and boring, then it is, okay? So cut it, replace it with something full of activity, something more dynamic. And the gray boxing, the prototyping technique in which you create just a gray boxed model of your level. You don't have to implement any activities, any events, any I don't know, enemies, mechanics, whatever. Just a gray box being a model of your level. And because it's a prototyping, you are allowed to walk. Okay, so basically you create a gray box that is a walking simulator. But if you walk through across this gray boxed level prototype, and you just analyze or imagine all the activities you do one after the other, okay, to find out if you have the right pacing, if the game seems progressing neatly in a balanced way. All right, and the last golden rule is provide variety. It seems obvious, but designers can simply forget that, well, you put all these activities, but if there is not enough variety in these activities, they will eventually become boring. So think about how to provide the player with different skills, different mechanics, different weapons. Okay. 12 pillars of the beat chart. This is the last installment of our 55 funny facts, and I will not discuss them here. I will discuss them with a real beat chart. So what is a beat chart? It's a list of various features across a number of game levels. So we have here a game, Relic Raider. It's not a real game, it's a fake project created by Scott Rogers only to be able to produce this beat chart. The hero travels around the globe looking for a lost treasure. We have here 5 levels named Shanghai, Jungle 1, Jungle 2, Temple of the Hidden Skulls, and Mountain Escape. Even these names of the levels show that we have 2 jungle levels, so it's a warning light here, do we really need them? Location, Shanghai rooftops, nice. Jungle, it's okay. Jungle, it's a repetition. Ancient temple, mountain pass. Okay, so our initial idea that perhaps we don't need 2 similarly named levels is maybe true. Gameplay, stealth, shooting, jumping. Here we have shooting and fighting. It's really a big difference between shooting and fighting, perhaps, but I'm not so much convinced. Here we have platform and jumping, so it's looking nice, and driving. Yeah, so there is a variety, but still there is 2 jungle levels look suspicious. Objective, find crime boss Wu Fan. Objective here, Jungle Part 1. Oh, what is that? It's unclear. Jungle Part 2. Also unclear. Reach Chamber of Skulls. Oh, that's a good objective. Car chase. It could possibly be. Story beat. Jake steals a medallion, is caught by Wu Fan. Jake explores jungle. Exploration may be a gameplay if it is well done, if it is full of activities, so it's maybe not a bad idea. Jack finds Temple of Skulls. It's unclear here. So what? He is finding this temple for the entire level, or he finds it just at the end of the level? You can see that something is fishy about this second jungle level. Jake places medallion in a statue. Nazi General Hauser shows up. That's a good story here. Jake steals truck, flees. It's nice. Okay, weapons. With weapons, it's even not about the jungle, it's about the entire balance of this game. We have a 45 machine gun in level 1 and a machete in the level 2, but nothing in level 3, nothing in level 4, nothing in level 5. Seriously? Probably it's something not very well thought here. Enemies. Level 1, Tongue, Thug, X-Man, Machine Gunner. It's apparently a very dynamic, well-written level. Level 2, Jaguar and the Native. Yes, that's what I would expect in a jungle. Level 3, again, Jaguar, nothing new. Temple of the Skulls, the level 4, Jaguar and Nazi Soldier, so something new. Here we have trucks, jeeps with machine gun, that's good. Mechanics, a swinging rope and a zip line on the roofs of Shanghai, I can imagine this. A jungle, swinging rope and zip line, seriously? Oh. And third level, zip line, just a zip line. It's definitely something wrong with these two jungle levels. The other levels are okay. I think you have the idea what is behind the beat charts. This is a clear presentation of what's included in each level. Such charts can be much bigger, can actually cover the entire wall. Just imagine that you can have like 40, 50, 100 levels, okay, and it still makes sense to create one huge beat chart with all the levels in it. And also the game elements that don't have to be limited to 12 or whatever number. It may be much more of them. By the way, I'm looking at the lower row, color mapping. Color mapping is very important because, as you remember, colors create atmosphere in the game, and we have blue-red coloring of the Shanghai level, green-brown in the jungle, green-brown in the second jungle, so there's no variety, no diversification. Player will find it difficult to see the difference between Jungle 1 and Jungle 2. So the conclusion is definitely Jungle should be replaced by a single level, perhaps a shorter level, and also I would say new weapons should be better distributed across all the levels, and perhaps also where was that? Mechanics looks yeah, the level 4 and 5 are fine, level 1 is also fine, but apparently none of the jungle levels provided anything new in these terms, and they should. Okay, so a beat chart is a easy way to look into what you really have in your game levels, and what works well and what doesn't. Okay, and in this way we have arrived to the final slide, the conclusion. It's not counted into 55 funny facts. You can consider this a take-home message. So, first of all, level design is the art of assigning the game story to the game space, like in a sandwich, that's this medium part, okay, joining story to the game space or game world. Always use the top-down approach. Start from the world and the story, then go down to the level, experience, and finally moment-to-moment gameplay. That's definitely a good approach, a recommended one, unless you practice bottom-top, from low-level mechanics up to narrative. This is quite an exciting topic, which perhaps should be even a separate lecture about it. We don't cover this approach in our game design module. Maybe we will at some moment in the future. Yeah, I have recently investigated this method, which is definitely unorthodox but quite interesting. Use environment to tell the story. Game designers traditionally struggle with telling the story through the gameplay, and your environment is really a powerful tool to tell the game story. Provide each level with a meaningful theme and don't mix up too much, okay, between the levels. So keep them consistent and distinct. Don't create like two Django levels as we've just seen. Clichés are okay if you use them wisely, and remember about the Mexican pizza. Always care about pace and progression, provide variety, use gray boxing prototypes, and use beat charts to ensure game experience is properly distributed across all your levels. These were 55 funny facts about level design. Thank you very much for watching.